Pretend like this is a podcast. Everyone's a podcast.
In this next session, welcome back, friends. We've got Danny Wolf. She brings us the best kept secrets in the industry and buyer insights from the dozens of interviews that she's conducted with security professionals. So join me in welcoming to the stage Danny Wolf, founder and CEO of Audience First and former director of demand generation at Cybersecurity. Danny Wolf.
All right. Thank you. Is everybody happy now that they've eaten? Everybody, okay, good? Keep eating. Otherwise, this should just be an email or a slide presentation on offline. And please, no food comas. Give me a chance here. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about buyer research and what I've learned from almost 9 months of interviewing CISOs on a podcast and what I did next. As marketers, we've been hired to persuade busy and stressed out security practitioners to buy from us. I'm here today to tell you to do the exact opposite. Now bear with me. My name is Danny Wolf, thank you, founder and CEO of Audience First, and I have a confession. I've been a digital and demand gen marketer for 13 years, and 5 of those years were in the cybersecurity industry. And for nearly a decade as a marketer, I've spent maybe 50% of my time relentlessly trying to persuade buyers to get their attention, using trivial tasks and tactics that had no impact on revenue whatsoever. What's worse is that those tasks had no positive impact on my customers' experience. In fact, the opposite is true. What happened next? Interesting. I got so overwhelmed, so stressed because of aggressive growth goals. I was worried about my career growth, and I got so bored doing things that just didn't work, didn't resonate with my buyers, and I eventually burnt out. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. I poked the bear. His name, Chris Roberts. Now, for some of you who follow and listen to Audience First podcast or the new podcast we just launched, WTF Did I Just Read, Tech Sales and Marketing Edition, you know who Chris Roberts is. For those of you who don't, he's the CISO at Boom Supersonic. And let me tell you a little bit of a story. Imagine a very large English grizzly bear with a dyed purple beard, a taser in one hand, and a wet fish in the other who's ready to just smack you across the face. Yes, that was Chris Roberts on the first day that I met him, okay? And by the way, I hope he's not listening somewhere. Okay, so yes, imagine that mental picture when I got to virtually meet him. He was a customer of mine, meet him on the first website audit session I had to get feedback from him. I pissed him off because, yes, I used a buzzword. And yes, I used it out of context, and yes, it was zero trust. I could hear him in the Jabra once I said zero trust out of complete context. Whoever said that, take them into the back room and taser them right now. That was the worst English accent. I'm sorry I butchered that. But that day, my life as a cybersecurity marketer changed forever. I was faced with a deep internal dilemma, okay? I could take the blue pill and the story ends, go to sleep, wake up in my bed, believe whatever I want to believe, continue as I've been going in my career and see what happens and where it takes me. Or I could take that red pill and go see a new world, go down a rabbit hole, and remember, I would hear Chris Roberts saying, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. And I wanted the truth, and I knew that I could handle the truth. So I asked Chris, why the hell did I piss you off? Okay? Questions like, what didn't work for you, right? What could I have done differently? What are the alternatives, right? What are your goals? How could that alternative approach impact your goals? I became so obsessed with asking questions and getting feedback that I made it my mission to interview my customers every single week until I never felt or caused that frustration that occurred on that day that I met Chris. Now, fast forward today to this wonderful moment where we're all together, and despite consistent year-over-year recommendation to do customer research, it's important. Customer experience is a priority, right? And my best efforts in providing all of you with free security customer research, right? On LinkedIn, on the podcast, talking to companies, working with some of you one-on-one, many of us still do this. Now take this in for a moment, okay? This, among other things that piss them off and piss on them, right? Shout out to Clark Barron, by the way, who shared this in the Cyber Marketing Society Slack channel. I got this from him, and I got his approval to use this. Are we bad marketers? No. Are we bad people? No. Have we failed? I don't believe so. We just haven't gotten out of our comfort zone, right? Those trivial habits that are bad for us, we still do. That are bad for our customers, we still do. We stay in that warm, fuzzy marketing cave because it's so comfortable. MarTech is so comfortable, and we get lost in the automation and technology of things. We stay in our echo chambers. We listen to ourselves because, again, that's our comfort zone. To succeed in exponentially growing our business, 2x, 3x, 5x sometimes, it's crazy, right? Most importantly, to succeed in helping cybersecurity professionals do their jobs better, we need to affect change. That's why I'm here. I want to share 3 key ingredients I learned while interviewing dozens of CISOs throughout the past 9 months. The first thing that has to occur if we want to truly understand our buyers and affect change in our organizations and in an industry, we have to make some changes in ourselves. There has to be a mindset shift. Our purpose here is to help professionals battle on the front lines, whether that's behind the keyboard or sometimes physically in person. When your mission is to help the people that you're selling to, the profits are going to come. Our audience, they come first. And in order to help them, and in order to put them first, we need to go back to the foundations and empathize with them if we're going to succeed as marketers in this industry. 2, you need to change the order in which you do things, okay? We all like to focus on the sexy part of marketing, that persuasion that I talked about in the beginning. Landing page optimization, campaigns, brand campaigns, website redesigns, new websites, right? Sales outreach motions, okay? Without even validating if that is needed or resonates with the audience. The problem with that is that it's largely based on assumption and guesswork. And so when you focus on the foundations first, who are your customers? What are their challenges? Why do they buy? How do they buy? It becomes much easier to persuade your audience and get them to pay attention to you. So the order in which you do things matters, and the biggest gains are in the foundations. What good is it if you have golden nuggets in your hand, you're sitting on a gold mine of insights, but you're not using that as currency to invest in your business to grow? You have to become comfortable with taking those insights you have in your hand and systematically and consistently applying it to your strategies and tactics. Those big bets that you're using against your marketing dollars then become sure bets. Okay, that's all great and dandy, but how the hell, Danny, right? I'm giving you all this great theory. Back to story time, okay? I was sitting in the room after I pissed off Chris, and I got virtually tasered. Amazing. I was sweating bullets. And I knew I needed to make these changes, but my biggest frustration as a demand marketer was so many people were saying customer research was important, okay? And you have to do it, but nobody showed me how to pragmatically do it. How do you do it? How do you execute this, right? So audience first became my way of practicing on and offline. And so we're gonna go back to the 3 core ingredients that I just talked about. And we're gonna break them down to give you a roadmap on how to confidently pursue cybersecurity customer research by yourself and start affecting change. So here's how I approached it, all right? Here's what worked for me. Now, there's no right answer. You could use so many different frameworks, but this is what specifically worked for me. All right, this is my roadmap. I'm gonna take you through. Firstly, I knew I needed to understand the what, okay? What are the actual facts and experiences in my customer's life? Now, that includes creating an objective, understanding who I need to target, creating those questions, and then actually executing the interview. Then I need to understand and make sense of all of the information that I have, right? The so what, because what use is all of this information if we can't ask, why is it important to me, right? What questions does this cause us to ask? How do we feel? How does it make us feel when we get all this information, right? And what kind of conclusions can we extract from the information? So this part is often overlooked because it's seemingly difficult, but in just a short minute, I'm gonna show you how I did it. Lastly, you have all this information. Now I need to do something with the information if I'm going to affect change, right? The now what? Most skip to the now what before even doing the so what. So what are the courses of actions I can take to improve my efforts and affect change? Your objective. I talked about changing mindset, right? Now, here's how that played out. The first step in my journey was to become genuinely curious, right? Remember all those questions that I asked Chris, in the beginning? What, why, when, where, how? You need to expose that desire to uncover what you know you don't know and validate what you know you know. My challenge at the time, okay, is that my conversion rate to qualified opportunity was very low, and I already had most of my budget consumed on events coming in as a new marketer to the organization. And so I needed to understand how I could optimize my work with little budget, right? I needed to be able to answer the questions, all right, what do I really need to know right now? What do my superiors and my team need to know to do better and increase conversion rates? And why do I need to know it, right? This is gonna help you formulate your research objectives. Then my audience, who am I gonna talk to? Who are the people that are actually going to help me affect change? Now I know who I need to target, right? I need to make my business money. So who's paying me right now, right? Who's paying the organization? What do they look like? Can I segment them? Who are the particular segments contributing to my revenue metrics? That's my ideal customer. In my case, at the time, it was the CISO, among some others. All right, now that I have my objectives, my audience, right? I have my objectives and my audience in mind. What questions do I ask? I don't know how to approach this. I got to figure it out. But how do I ask them, right? How do I get the best answers from my audience? Do I ask them open-ended questions or leading questions? What the hell are open-ended questions and leading questions? That's something that I needed to figure out. So in my case, because I knew that I needed to increase conversion to qualified op, I wanted to formulate questions that would uncover the CISO challenges, their goals, right? What are their triggers to buy? What are some of the constraints or barriers to buy? What are the decision criteria and their journey to buying? And most importantly, because the market is so dynamic, what are some anomalies or differentiators that are occurring in the market that we could take advantage of in the CISO's eyes that are important to them? Once I have all that, right, interview time. Now, I felt more empowered and ready and confident, prepared to pursue that interview because I had all this prep work already done, right? What was important to me at this stage was comfort, honesty, and the perception of my buyer towards me, right? How do I look? How do I sound? I know I want them to tell me the truth. So does this conversation feel organic, right? Am I letting them speak so that I can better understand them? Am I actively listening, or am I interrupting them? All right, we have a bunch of information. Interview is over. Hallelujah. Well, that was the hard part. Now, so what? Remember we talked about parsing that information. Now it's time to get into crunch time. I needed to put my analytical hat on. What are the conclusions we can draw from all of the conversations and transcripts we have, right? When you have their words in your hands, you can pull those key insights out and you can start prioritizing them based on the popularity, right, and trends that you see from the sample of CISOs or buyers that you're interviewing. What you get is your own personalized repository of customer insights, right, that is already mapped based on their experience, so that you can use that on your current work and your future work, right? All of this is based on validation now and not on assumption and guesswork anymore. By the way, I'll share this afterwards so everybody can see. So what I extracted from this, right, was that CISOs need to manage and protect the data. They need to operate efficiently along with their teams and respond quickly to threats, right? They need to communicate to the board in ways that resonate to the board, right, without killing them with numbers. As a researcher, I know that team maturity is the reason for buying new solutions and sometimes the reason for not buying new solutions, right? That could be a barrier as well. Ease of use is critical for them, and integrations is a decision factor. And I know that CISOs rely on their personal network and community to evaluate new tools, right, and new smaller events as well. So now that I have parsed this information, how can I take it to a course of action to help CISOs do their job? Side note, I did not type everything that the CISO panel did before this and use this for my deck. I promise you this is all validated beforehand. But that was a very good validation element too, so. Now it's time to actually do something with your data, right? Remember the now what. Once you've parsed all your information and prioritized it, you can map it to experience to action, right? Map the experience to action. Here are some ways I've done that with the information in my previous organization, right? 1, before you do anything, share this information with your whole organization. This information should not be siloed strictly to yourself and to the marketing organization. It should be shared to the founders, R&D, product, customer success, right? The whole organization has to be customer first and obsessed. Practical workshops, right? I wanted to be able to enable my buyers to, with creating more practical assets or events to help them translate reporting to the board in ways that resonated with the board, right? Maybe a good idea would also be to help them with storytelling, right? We as marketers are storytellers. What a great way to help CISOs communicate to their audience as well. Reducing buyer friction also became a huge priority for us as we wanted to increase conversion rate to demo and to opportunity as well. We wanted to get rid of all the fluff and buzzwords on the website. That's what we did with Chris. It was a great exercise, and we wanted to create focused messaging, right? We wanted to remove noise and complexity on our digital experiences. We also wanted to clearly state what we're providing and give technical diagrams on how it works in a very clear and concise manner, right? We talked about integrations. That was a priority for them. It was talked about on the panel before, right? How do they work? Give high-level explanations so that there is no confusion. It was important for us to save money, save budget, because we already had invested a lot of our budget in events, but because we invested money in events already, how could we maximize that dollar and squeeze the ROI out of it, right? We wanted to invest in smaller regional events, and if we were going to large events, it would be fewer strategic events or trade shows. And more importantly, we thought about doing off-site events for practical skills improvements because we knew that team skill building was really, really critical for the CISO and their team and for the community. Now, this is a very important and critical tactic that we used that has really helped us build pipeline. We built a network of colleagues for our buyers, right? Peer-to-peer was huge. We understood that our buyers wanted to constantly learn from their peers and their colleagues, and so we created pain point boardrooms where they could come in and talk about their challenges tied to specific themes and elements. And that reflected very well on the brand as a trust element and credible element. We also created podcasts, right, where our own podcast, not sponsored, where we brought in our customers as hosts for the podcast and where they had influence in the industry where others could learn from our host, who was a CISO, and apply those practical elements to their job. Now, this roadmap that I shared with you will help you focus. It will help you reach your goals faster, and more importantly, and most importantly actually, is to establish credibility and trust in the industry and among your customers, which we all know is key, right? This roadmap's easy, okay? It's powerful, it's not expensive. Customer research doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't take an expert. You can do it. Many of you are already doing this in some capacity, right? But what's more, and I found this most surprising and refreshing, is that the security community is willing to help. There's the stigma that it's hard to reach them. There's the stigma that they don't want to help. Yes, they are upset with us because of some shady tactics. Yes, we can make a change, but they're here to help us. Just ask for help, right? You don't need a fancy analyst or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do research. You can do this by yourself, and it's time for you to unmute your mic. All right, this is my call to action for you. I know I really breezed through that, holy moly. Okay. After this conference, go home and try this roadmap out for yourself, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get started. You're going to get better at it. It wasn't perfect for me when I started, trust me. Listen to the first episodes. You will be amazed at how much key insights you'll get after just a few interviews. You do not need 49. Trust me. I learned the hard way. You're going to see diminishing returns. After 8 or 10, you're already going to see the trends, and it's already going to be enough for you to extract some action from that and map that to the experience. So please share this with anybody, okay, who needs to hear it. Whether you need to hear it again, happily, this is recorded, excellent. Your colleagues, your boss, even your buyers and customers. Okay, and most importantly, the next time you go to pursue persuasion, landing pages, new websites, campaigns, sales outreach motions, right? Remember, never make assumptions. Validate and put your audience first. Thank you. All right. I'm here for Q&A, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah, if anybody wants to ask questions, I'm here because I wanted to keep some time for Q&A if anybody has. Yes, please.
Yep, you can hear me now.
Yep.
So you'd mentioned about your podcasts and hosting them. What was the trick in getting your customers to be hosts? Because that's really interesting, because that's tapping into their network. Was that a credibility journey that you had to go through?
Yeah, so it started off with, actually, Chris was the host, and it started off by pissing him off. So you could do that. I don't recommend it. But, Nate talked about failure. Maybe failure is good. Yeah. But I came in and I said, look, we want to get better. I want to get better. We need a new way of marketing to our customers. And we need to give practical advice to get people to get better. And so that was the hook is I came in and said, I don't want just another podcast. I want a podcast that's actually going to be actionable and practical and pragmatic, like one nugget a day or one nugget a week that the analyst can go back and use in their job. And that was what bought him. It wasn't just another theoretical cybersecurity podcast. It was a really practical, informative podcast on how to do things right with tools that seemingly are nice to have but are critical to have. Any other questions? Yeah, what's up?
So inviting those customers or inviting others to
Well, I actually was very successful in LinkedIn, and I was really blunt with them. I said, look, I'm not trying to pitch you. I just need some help and feedback. Do you have 15 minutes? And yes, it really was 15 minutes. It wasn't a lie. It was 15 minutes of their time to just ask a couple questions. And then I also asked for recommendations if there are any other people that they could recommend to reach out to. So it was kind of building that network. It wasn't just, okay, I have a list of people that I'm going to try and outreach to for advice. It was, hey, thanks for helping me out. Do you know anybody of this profile that would be open to having a discussion with me about this as well? Because we want to get better and improve and get feedback. That's all we want. And so it built up, it built my own little nice community of CISOs and security practitioners. It gave that trust and credibility, and they saw that with the interaction and the relationship building that was also a part of customer research, that I could be trusted and we can continue doing this together. But yes, it's not simple, and that is a big question that I get frequently.
When you shared with the other people on your team, were they surprised by your results, or what was their takeaway from what you had learned?
It wasn't so surprised. It was just kind of a sense of, okay, great, this is good to use. We can do it, and we executed on most of the tactics that were listed here. I have seen, sadly, in organizations where they invest in a lot of customer research, a lot of money in customer research as well, and nobody comes to the table for that executive briefing. It's unfortunate, and so the reason why I mentioned relentlessly share this with your team is because even if you share it one time, most likely they're not going to listen or read it. Keep pushing it, right? Keep it consistent. It shouldn't be a one-time thing. Things change, people are dynamic, the market changes, and so you need to consistently do that within different phases of the year and of the buying cycles, and so yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. So can you elaborate on your question, how to roll it out?
So, yeah, so what you are, sales is also, doing your own outbound thing, and the way they approach people is very different. So
Yeah.
how did you, I guess, coach them to adopt what you learned?
Yeah, so one of the main questions that I ask buyers is, what do you hate most that vendors do? And I just give them that full list. And I say, don't do that. Please don't do that. Another is, what I've done recently actually is opened up a forum for BDRs, SDRs, and account executives to actually come online and ask me and Chris how to do better. I don't have all the answers, but what I'd like to see is more salespeople and more marketers ask more questions. And so that forum is there for them. We have 2 podcasts. We have Audience First, which is the customer research, the buyer journey, the triggers, decision criteria. And then we have WTF that I just read, which is forums open, let's audit and validate your message and talk about how to do better. Because yeah, I don't have all the answers. Yep. Yeah, we modified some emails, definitely. Bribes were part of that, and we chucked that out. The 15 minutes of your time we took out. So it was very tactical on the outreach side. And I'd say we increased the amount of touch points and made it less salesy, more approachable, more human. Hey, we just want to understand what your priorities are, where you are in the maturity of your organization, to kind of understand and do that initial discovery for them. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
How did you disseminate that information across your organization? Did you use, I don't know, internal drive, like Google or something, to help put together your notes, or was it something that you kind of shared out in a memo format on Slack? How did you do that effectively for your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have the Google Sheet as a repository and a template. I used Slack to share nuggets in specific channels based on the relevance of the channel. There are actually really great tools that are free that you can kind of segment your buckets of insights, and actually it automatically does the work to pull out the hottest trends or the most popular kind of terms or themes, and also provides you kind of with like an analytical view of things too. So Dovetail is one of them you can use, but we just used Google Sheets because we didn't do this, we just started the process. If this was at scale, we would have used something like Dovetail, which is a really great tool. Anyone else? Yeah.
When you said you got rid of the 15 minutes, but the sales generally puts it on pre-sales, what was the revision to time? Did you put another time?
Nope, no time. Got rid of it. Got rid of it altogether because it's generally an hour, right? But we got rid of time altogether. Yeah. We have time, a few more minutes for, otherwise I'll give you back 15 minutes of your time. Oh my gosh, no, you don't want to see that. Yeah.
What was the general framework for time of actually doing all this?
Yeah.
What's the investment of time look like?
Yeah, so I always block out an hour, but it's generally 15 to 30 minutes of time, right?
For the whole.
Oh, it's just weekly ongoing for me. Because and also what's interesting, and I learned this during the process of my 49, which is a lot, but you don't need 49 interviews. Again, 8 to 10 is the sweet spot. But what I want to do is, because I learned from my mistakes, is that you don't need 49. Let's change up the audience. Let's, now I want to focus on, security architects, analysts, security engineers, that kind of audience. One thing that I learned in speaking to CISOs is sometimes you don't even want to get to the CISO. Sometimes they're not making the decisions. I learned that from Alan Alford, who is a CISO and now actually on his own, a consultant. He's also in the CyberMarketing Society. Alan's a great guy. So don't be too focused on the CISO. Focus also on the lieutenants, right? The people that are right under them. Get to know them as well, because sometimes they're making the decisions for the teams as well.
Quick follow-up. Do you go back to some of the same people to track longitudinally?
Yeah, for sure, definitely, 100%. Because things change in their life, things change in their priorities, in their roadmap, and in the maturity of the team. And it's always nice to continue the relationship. This is not just a one-time thing. This is, hey, thanks for the feedback. We did this. How does it look here? Like, can you give us a little bit of advice on how to change that? Does this resonate now? So it's customer relationship management, 100%. 100%.
Danny, what was the breakdown between interviewing existing customers, just your ICP that aren't your customers, and were there different insights between those groups, or were they pretty much aligned?
So that's a great question. I had a lot of challenge getting access to existing customers because either customer success didn't want me fumbling, don't ask too much from the customer, I don't want them churning, or they don't have time right now, and so it was really hard for me to get access to customers, so I looked for the next best thing, which was the ideal customer. And I took a look at the profiles and I segmented my data, my audience in Salesforce. I took a look at who was the ideal customer for me, providing that revenue, right, within a reasonable time frame, got that role and that persona out, and then looked for them and started interviewing them. So you don't have to settle always on your customer. Look for the next best thing, which is your ideal customer, and sometimes that will give you the answers you need. Great questions. Yeah.
So I'm ABM at my company right now, and a lot of what you're saying, I don't have the capacity to do that myself, but I'm enabling the SDR team to go build out, I call it hierarchy mappings of the organization. While they do that, I'm like, find key findings, like try to figure out what tools they use, how we can talk about integrations and everything that's working.
Yeah.
There's twofold to that. One, have you used your SDR team to do that research for you? And if you have, how do you enable
Okay, we're gonna have to break this question down because jet lag is hitting me real hard right now.
And then the
First
second one is
phase.
like, yeah, here, I'll do that one first.
Okay, first phase. Did I let the SDRs do? No.
Yeah.
I tried, but it didn't happen. And so this is why I created this, because I want others to try it. It doesn't, again, this is a good enough version. You don't need perfect. You need good enough to at least try it. And it's exponentially better than what's not been done before. Second part of your question was?
Yeah, so outreach.
Yes.
If you're doing this to a large number of accounts, there's like the one-to-one and the one-to-few. How would you do that? Like through digital ads? Like how would you serve a digital ad with a message that resonates with what you're learning through your research to try to target a mass number of accounts with the right message through that research that you've done? Does that make sense?
I think so.
It was a lot. I'm very wordy, I know.
Yeah. I might need to brew on that and then get back to you on that. But let me think about that and get back to you on that because that's a great question. Yeah.
I'll add on to that a little bit because I've listened to your podcast. Big fan, by the way.
Yay. Thank you.
I think a lot of the insights that you hear are like, treat me like a human.
Yep.
Learn about me. Then come talk to me. And that works great for salespeople, right? Like, yeah, go find, also duh, but right, like learn about your customer before you attack them. But then when we're trying to send like mass messages
Marketing
that hit a lot of people,
Yeah.
like that's really hard, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like, so I think I don't know if that's the same question you were asking. It's like, how do
Well,
how do I take that insight, which is like, hey, don't talk to me like I'm a part of a body of people, but like an individual when you're sending out mass messaging to all everybody at once.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends on how you're segmenting those campaigns, right? What's your level of segmentation? And I think that's my best answer right now. And I know that it's difficult. Like, how do you market at scale with the insights that you're having? Something I'm still figuring out, to be honest. But how good is your segmentation strategy within your digital campaigns, right? Or is it just like, I don't want to say spray and pray, but is it like a large segment that you're focusing on, right? I know that it's difficult to go granular on segmentation because sometimes the TAM is too small, but if you can kind of bucket those audiences by relevance and context of challenge and need, then that insight and message could resonate better. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
Any more questions? Make sure you use the microphone so we can capture it in the video recording. Otherwise, it'll be just Dan talking to herself.
Which is me most of the day anyway, like, let's be honest. Yeah.
Perhaps just following up on that. How granular did you get in your segmentation? So there's obviously my entire customer base that's kind of useless, and you segment it further. But how granular did you go, and when did you know it was good enough?
Yeah, not too granular, because then it gets way too complicated to apply. But CISO, the one who has the wallet, the one who's going to use, and the one who can influence both the wallet and the user, right? The one in between. So that's how I segmented it. Make sense? Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, I would love your feedback. I love feedback like Gianna likes feedback too. So please let me know offline or in person, or online or in person. This was my first time talking in front of such a large crowd. So how'd I do? I hope it was helpful. This has been a pleasure, and bravo to Gianna and Maria and Eileen for setting this up. This is awesome. I remember when the group was itty bitty. Yeah, we had chatted before you even kicked it off. That was awesome. So thank you everybody for your time and attention. And again, unmute your mic. Listen to the podcast. If you don't want to do that, that's fine as well. You can visit audiencefirst.fm. We're going weekly. The goal is to have 50 podcast interviews this year. We're at 35 right now, which is pretty cool. Or you can email me if you need some help. Happy to be a soundboard, happy to help you set up your roadmap. Or if you just want to connect on LinkedIn, that's my QR code with all my contact information. Thank you.